Love is a high-risk behavior.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the podcast, High Risk for Heartbreak. I am your host, Christina, and I'm so glad you decided to join me today. For those of you who are new here, I pray you find value in at least one thing I say today. And to my old and faithful returning crew, you know just how much I appreciate you. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And also, at any point throughout the show, hit the like button. That helps me to know how to continue to better tailor this channel for you. Without further ado, let's jump into it. So I want to tell you guys a quick story about something that happened. I work in the entertainment industry as an actress and a stunt woman. Also have known to do aerial as well, here or there. But I have currently, in the interim, while we wait in this very long season of slowness in the industry, as every production house is moving outside of the United States and work is becoming very scarce. I have been nannying. So I nanny, I care for children, I tutor, I help with homeschooling, I do all of these things. And recently I just moved into more of the school space and I had a class of students. They were 3 to 4 year old students. I had a class of students a couple of weeks ago and there was something really amazing that happened. It was sad for them, but it was amazing to watch these children kind of work through this disagreement. So for the sake of protecting them, I am going to name these girls G, Mel, and M. Okay? G, Mel, and M. So G, Mel, and M were playing. We were inside after going, I think we had gone outside to the playground and come back inside, and they just had some more like focused playtime. And so they were playing with each other. And at some point, I guess G and Mel no longer wanted to play with M. And I just remember seeing G and Mel walk away. They kind of stormed away and went and sat at the tables where we do all of our learning. And I was kind of like, what's going on? And then I hear M crying and she's crying. She's like, they won't play with me. And I'm like, okay, let's go over there. Let's find out why they won't play with you, M. So we walk over to the table and I'm like, G, Mel, what's going on? And they're like, oh, we don't want to play with her. She wants to play with us. We don't want to play with her. And G proceeds to say that M scratched her on the arm. She's like, she scratched me on my arm. And then Mel says that M grabbed her and shook her and telling her to play with her. And I was like, whoa. I said, M, did you do those things? She said, yes, but I want them to play with me. And I was like, okay. I said, M, that is not how you get people to play with you. You can't force people to play with you, especially through physical force, you know? I said, you have to be gentle. These people don't want to play with you now because you were not being gentle with them. So the girls were, they had their moment. Each of them got to speak about what had occurred. And I said to the girls, G and Mel, I said, so do you guys forgive her? And they were like, no. And I said, would you like to play with her? And they said, no, we do not want to play with her. And they did this and this. And I was like, oh, it's very serious. The boundary was set, okay? So M, of course, starts crying. She's just like, I want to play. And I was like, M, you have to understand. They said no. They said no. And that's not fair. And I said, well, this is a lesson in how to treat your friends and how not to treat your friends. So you have to just take this no. I said, go find someone else to play with. So she runs off. She ends up being fine, right? But a couple days later, I wanted to kind of see how this was going to play out because it didn't end in the resolution that I think I would have liked to see, which is, okay, hey, don't hit me anymore. Don't scratch me anymore. Let's go off and play in the sunset. I really did want to see that resolution come to fruition, but it didn't. And I was actually okay with that because this was a lesson in reality, right? Every time we have an argument or disagreement with people, and things are not going to always resolve in an instant and then we get to run off into playland, right? So it was very interesting. So I had spoken to G's grandmother when she came to pick her up about it, and she was like, oh, well, G has had her fair share of issues with her friends and they always forgive her, so I want her to forgive them. And I said, yes, ma'am. I said, that is actually very important that they forgive each other, right? That is the heart that God wants us to have for others, is a heart of forgiveness, because that is what he has done for us. I said, however, she's not ready emotionally. I said, they are still so emotional. She's not ready. So she said no. And she said, I understand. And I said, I honestly think it was a really beautiful lesson in standing on what she in that moment was able to do. And she was not able to move forward with her. She was too emotional. And so that's how it ended, essentially. And then a couple days later, They were playing together, but not super closely. So I noticed that there was just a difference in how they were playing together. The girls were a little bit weary of her. And that is, I think, probably how their friendship is going to move forward. Is like, I saw how you crossed me and I don't love it. So I might say yes to you now, but I'm going to be weary of you. So anyway, I today want to talk about the no that these two girls gave and sometimes the yeses that we give to things and how important it is to stand on that. Let's relate. My therapist and life coach and think coach and all the types of coaches he is to me and I were having a conversation some time ago of my past hurts. And a challenge that he gave me is that I probably would have been less confused and less hurt in my experiences if I let my yes be yes and my no be no. However, when existing in the gray area, like I was and have and done and probably will do in the future, it causes confusion because you commit to nothing. And then that allows you to commit to anything. There are a few verses that I want to share with you guys about what God says about yes and no. So I'm going to pick up my Bible here. I got the holy text here, you guys. I don't usually bring this out. I usually try to have it on my teleprompter, but I said, let's today bring the real text out. This is my, by the way, this Bible I've had since, oh gosh, high school. My dad got this for me for Christmas of 2002, I think. So it's very old and it's falling apart. I need to get it rebound because I do want to keep this one for the rest of my days if I can. I just love it. I love this Bible. It's a study Bible and it's just been with me through a lot. So nonetheless, let's go ahead and we're going to go to Matthew 5:33, through 37. And in this moment, Jesus is talking about oaths and retaliation. And I think that's very apropos for today's message, but he's talking about how important it is to not have oaths more than your yes and no, okay? So in 33, it says, "And again, ye have heard that it hath been said by them of old time, thou shalt not forswear thyself, but thou shalt perform unto the Lord thine oaths. But I say unto you, swear not at all, neither by heaven, for it is God's throne, nor by earth, for it is the footstool, neither by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great king. Neither shalt thou swear by thy head, because thou canst not make one hair white or black. But let your communication be yea, yea, nay, nay. For whatsoever is more than these cometh of evil." Whoa. Okay, so we're going to talk about this. A lot of us are out here swearing and pinky promising to get people to believe the words that are coming out of our mouths. Swearing, of course, during this time was an issue in this day. So Jesus is speaking about the historical oaths that were allowed in the times of the Old Testament, with the exception of those that profane God's name. And now he is saying, swear no more and just speak the truth. We should be speaking the truth with love, of course, and expecting the truth to be spoken to us as well. Jesus even goes as far as to note that swearing by anything is evil. It's evil because needing to swear means that your words lack integrity. And now you have to go outside, outsource, to kind of manipulate and bring people in. And it is a call really to us. It's a call to a higher standard for those of us who are believers. Okay. Now this is like a musical masterpiece for some of us, especially those of us who are wordsmith people, we're words of affirmation people, we're words people. We value the words that we speak and the words of others. That's me. So I was like, yes, let's talk about it, Lord. Our words should hold integrity and truth. But sometimes they don't. You know the phrase, actions speak louder than words? That quote makes perfect sense, honestly, until you really think about it. The words of a person with integrity should stand for them, right? Like the quiet promise without a need to double back and confirm that they are telling and maintaining the truth. The truth of yes and no stand with no need for help. I had an exchange one time with a man about this, and he was actually skeptical of people's words. And obviously that comes from what I'm just talking about, is people giving you their word and then reneging, or you're not upholding the word that they gave. It wasn't truth. It wasn't truthful. He was an actions-based guy and received his certainty through how people acted versus how they spoke. And that's fair. Honestly, it's very fair. One of these things that I told him, though, is that I used to be that way until I encountered a person who did all the right things. This person did all the right things in action and in deed, but then I found out it was all a sham. Some of us out here are brilliant actors. We can match motions to manipulations, and we can have people believing things that aren't real and doing things to keep the guys up. But that facade only gets them so far. Eventually, of course, there will be a breakdown somewhere and exposure of the truth happens. And good for everyone, because being outside of integrity is a terribly stressful way to live. I don't know why people would want to live that way. So because of that experience, I began to listen more, expose myself less, and hold them to their words and their actions, because they both speak. There's this thing that I've done in a couple of my relationships. It's manipulative, so do not do it, please. But I would ask my partner, "Are you being good to me?" Now, I ask because their word to me is their bond. And if they say yes, I have the expectation the yes is true, and we both are agreed on that. I was confirming that they were being integral with me. And if they were not, the breakdown would follow shortly after. And did, okay? Our words are powerful. They are verbal contracts to our loved ones and the rest of the world, both in spirit and physical. This is why you should mean your yes or no, and they should not become interchangeable. So I want to give you 3 quick reasons why saying yes or no is enough. Number 1, it's covenant. God has spoken many promises and made many covenants in the Old Testament word. These were and are being fulfilled, so we can depend on his word to make manifest because it is truth. Now imagine how your words are covenant as well. When you tell your boss that you're going to get that proposal in by no later than 3 o'clock, I imagine that they are going to be looking for that proposal because you committed to them through the covenant and promise of your word. Now imagine if you don't get it in and you don't notify them about a delay. Do you think that boss of yours is going to believe you next time? Probably not, because now your word lacks integrity. So it's not only about saying yes or no, it's about being yes or no. And you have to actually be what you commit to so you don't find yourself having to swear on everything for others to actually buy stock in you. Your words, like God's, should be covenant. Number 2, it's considerate. When someone is asking you to agree or disagree with them in anything, the most considerate thing that you can do is be honest in your answer, even if it doesn't feel good to them or you. And I stand 10 toes down when I say hurting people's feelings is never the goal, but it's always a possibility, especially in this world where we are highly sensitive and people often will take on offense. Giving someone your honest yes or no absolves everyone of the pain of future letdown. And that's where the consideration comes in. What I have realized about this is that I cannot control others' predictions of what they think I am going to say. When they ask me a question and I don't answer the way that they thought I was going to answer, I cannot control that. But what I can control is my answer. That's it. That's what I owe them when they ask me a question. And that means that sometimes our yes or our no might trigger a response in them that we never intended to trigger. Like the story I told at the beginning of the little girl that was hurting her friends because she wanted to play. She became more upset when she asked them to play after they had kind of gone through their discussion and they still said no. She was expecting that after all this talking, all would be well and they could run off into playland and be friends again. But their no was no. It was firm. And it triggered a response in her that was painful for me to witness and, of course, painful for her to feel. I hated that she had to feel that because I know what that feeling is. It's a feeling of rejection and embarrassment and maybe some guilt as well mixed in there. She might have felt shame as well because it's like, well, why can't I have friends? We have all been there at some point, right? We are expecting that others should get over things, offenses that we have done to them in the timing that is good for us. But that's quite contrary to what consideration actually is. Consideration comes from truth. What is the truth of the matter of what happened? not from our feelings. However, our feelings matter when it comes to forgiveness. And if we can't get past the feeling part, we will not be able to forgive with a pure heart. And I think oftentimes we believe that being considerate means that we have to tailor the way that we do things to meet the need of others while forsaking ourselves. But I think that we can do better for both parties. When we aren't truthful in our yes or no from the beginning, we are setting everyone up for a future letdown. And it can be tempting in the moment to lie a little, but please don't. Let your yes be yes and your no be no, with no need for adding any natural flavors for it to be more palatable for others. Number 3, it's complete. Jesus says in verse 34, not to swear at all. He says, neither by heaven, for that is God's throne, neither by earth, for that is his footstool, neither by Jerusalem, for it is a city of the great king, and do not take an oath by your head, for you cannot make one hair white or black. There is nothing that we can make an oath to outside of the sovereignty of God. And what makes your yes and your no complete sentences is that anything beyond that actually doesn't reflect the true nature of God himself, which is integral and immutable. And that is all that this is about. It's not about behavior modification or becoming more affirmed in self, which is in their own right. Those are good things, right? They're not bad things, but those things are byproducts of a heart that is after truth. God is truth. And so that is what we are after. And we will reflect when we abide in him. It can be quite hard to deliver your yes or no without any further explanation, because maybe in the past others didn't believe you. So you started taking it upon yourself to overassess a situation and generously explain why you said yes or no, when really it should have been sufficient. And while over-explaining is a response to the need to assure others, or could be kind of based in insecurity that you aren't sure about people believing you, you don't need to accompany any explanation with additional covenants, since that yes or no, or that yay or nay means what it means. Now, I will say this, there is a space called the gray area. And that is what my therapist said is often a source behind a lot of the torment that we face in our relational lives. We don't actually know with conviction why something might be yes or no to us. And that leaves us either compromising or demoting our affirmative or negative that we gave initially, or we're literally just living in a world of maybe, straddling the fence because our hearts can't commit to anything. We can't commit to the outcome that yes or no might bring. And I need to have Dr. Tony Simmons Jr. back on to discuss this because he has some serious depth with this, but it blew my mind and helped me to see why I actually have had a lot of self-imposed nuisances, particularly in the relational world, the fiscal world, and career space of my life. But this space of gray, plan A, B, C, D, E, F, G, the world of maybe, comes from not knowing with conviction what you value, what is truth, and having that confidence to stand on it despite the outcome. Some of us believe our yes or no will cause us to miss out on something. And so we opt for a maybe far too often, because that will bring about delayed discomfort and not immediate discomfort. And honestly, that delayed discomfort could be avoided if you just committed. In the same token, swearing on your words, on God, on your grandmother's grave, will bring about delayed discomfort as well. The discomfort of betraying your integrity that God wants you to keep. It's time to stop abandoning ourselves and stand with integrity that what we say means so much. What we do also means so much. So say what is true and do what backs the truth. Of course, unfortunately, these days, yes and no have kind of lost their savor. But Jesus is reminding us that it is the pinnacle of God's nature, truth, commitment to things that he says and does them. And through that, there is freedom. Thank you guys so much for loving yourself first, so you can then go and love your neighbor. Until next time.
Why don't you stay a little longer? You like what you like, right? Subscribe to the channel so we can spend a little more time together. And maybe comment your thoughts because I care what you're thinking. Love is the risk and the reward.